Good afternoon. I'm Anita Tebby, and I'm head of the Travelogue section of our retirees. And we have a wonderful presentation for you today. We have some people here in person as well as in Zoom. And thank you so much for coming. What we're going to see today is a 3,000-mile trip to Grand Canyon, starting in the Kansas City area. And I'm not very good in geography, but I know that it's only about 1,000 miles from here to the Grand Canyon. So obviously, Jonathan and Joan Bacon, who did this wonderful trip, had a few stops in between, like national parks, train rides, and many other exciting things. So please join me today in welcoming Joan and Jonathan Bacon.
Joan's going to be my silent partner, and I've told her she's free to jump in anytime she wants. We did make several stops along the way, and the last couple of years we've really focused on road trips as opposed to cruises or air flight, and this is the longest one we've taken. So you're welcome to come along and join us on this. Okay, we left Overland Park, Kansas. The first stop was Dodge City, which doesn't sound like a very exotic first stop, but it really was a fun place to stop. We went to the Boot Hill Museum and the cemetery that is part of it. And I wanted to read some of this. You may not be able to read what's on the screen, so I want to read part of it. The Boot Hill Cemetery says, the sign there says, "To any traveler who may pass this way and climb this lonely hill to pause and say, a prayer for us who early found our rest upon this prairie's wind-swept, ageless breast. Weep not for us who early made our beds, wrapped in blankets, saddles for our heads. We tamed the West with this, our land was young. We tamed the West when this, our land was young, and sank into our graves unknown, unsung." And that's by Josephine McIntyre. And she wrote a book called Boot Hill Outlaw Poems. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting poem. The gentleman, George Hoy, on the right-hand side, in the lower part of the right-hand side, basically, it's his funeral or his cemetery plot. The boots is hard to identify, but those are boots. And the reason Boot Hill got its name was because the people would, when they died, they would be buried with the boots at their head. And his inscription says, and this is not really his inscription, but the plaque was put there. He was one of the few people who was killed by Wyatt Earp while Earp was in the line of duty. And that was July 26, 1878. Hoy was shooting and causing a general mayhem. And it goes on to say Earp shot him, and Hoy was mortally wounded and died on August 21st. So he died a little bit after he was shot. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Boot Hill, but I want to hit just a few primary things. The museum has all sorts of fascinating artifacts, and among them is this Mackenzie mitts, and they're early versions of handcuffs. And it came about because a deputy who was transporting a man, the man got away from him, grabbed his gun, and shot the deputy. Now, the deputy survived. The man was recaptured and all that sort of thing. But the deputy decided he was going to come up with something that would constrain the outlaw. So he came up with these Mackenzie mitts. The problem was they would be chained on their hands and then connected to a belt, a chain around their belt. And what they found was they couldn't do anything, any personal kinds of things that might be needed along the trail. And so eventually the deputy would have to take the mitts off anyhow, which defeated the whole purpose of the mitts. So anyhow, In the museum, there are wonderful artifacts as well as these video screens, and each one comes alive when you push a button, and the person talks to you. Obviously, it's an actor who's portraying these different characters. And on the left is Wyatt Earp. On the right is William Masterson. And I forgot to make a note of who the one on the far right is, but at least you know two of them there. And this is the video I'm going to show you next. It's a bartender, supposedly portraying a bartender in Dodge City at the time when they outlawed, and you may have a hard time understanding it, but basically they outlawed liquor being sold in Dodge City. So he took his wagon wheel and went 1 mile outside. He rolled it to figure out what a mile outside was, and that's where he made a saloon. So here's our friend.
Alcohol sales within 5 miles. Prohibiting alcohol here in America. Know what I did? I used my wagon wheel for a measure. I figured out how far 5 miles was, and I set up my saloon 1 foot beyond. Excuse me.
So, and they have several other ones. They have a dance hall girl, and she tells her story. And what's also interesting is that she's the actress is portraying a young woman who was in fact there operating the saloon. And at some point in time during a shootout in one of the saloons, she was killed. So she didn't survive Dodge City. Here's just a sampling. They have an old-fashioned pharmacy in there. They have a lot of information about Buffalo and the Buffalo rifles and cases of antique guns. And this one, see if I can get it to play here. I want to know who shot that video, but they had a big wall screen with that running in there. And then, of course, lots of placards with information on buffalo hunters and buffalo and all. Along the way to our next stop, we went through Las Animas, Colorado. And apologies to the residents if I'm mispronouncing that, but it had some interesting wall art. And so I wanted to share that with you. I especially like Flash. I'm a comic book guy. And then we have been to Durango several times, and each time we've gone there, we've bypassed the Great Sand Dunes. It was 18 miles out of our way. We were in a hurry to get to Durango, and so this time we decided we were going to stop and go those 18 miles. But approaching it, you can see what is it? The sand. I have to check my notes. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And again, my apologies for if I'm mispronouncing that. But those are the mountains in the backgrounds, and you can see the dunes in the foreground. And I've got some video that I'm going to show you on a number of these as we go along.
To Florida to sit down and talk to incoming President Trump. So we'll talk to Jason about that. We'll also ask him when he's going to visit cities like Chicago coming up.
Hold on a second. I'm going to go in here.
There's Napolitano here. There are two big reasons the price of silver may.
Not sure what that is about, but we will mute them all. So again, here's another view of the mountains as you approach the Great Sand Dunes. Here's some video of it. recognize that person. The creek is the Medano. Again, I'm not sure the pronunciation, but that's the creek that goes through. You have to walk through that creek, and it has different heights at different times of year. You know, when there's a lot of mountain melting, then it's steeper than other times, and it's very cold. We were there late May, early June, and it was very cold. And you saw the young people basically snowboarding on the sand. So from there, we moved on to Durango and took the, we've done this before. We like the Silverton to, or Durango to Silverton Railroad, which leaves from Durango, Colorado. And it's just a fascinating ride. In fact, of all the train rides, I think it's the most beautiful one we've ever been on. And so I've got some video of it too I want to share with you.
Been here for 31 years. So I'm going to have you start looking out this right-hand window, and I'm going to basically say welcome to my office, okay? It's kind of a nice office view.
I don't know if you caught that, but she told us to look out and have her cameras ready to take a picture, and then there's a rock wall. This is close to a horseshoe curve, and you'll see in a second, you can see the whole train ahead of us. See that big rock on the right-hand side? Did you understand what she was saying? That's Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid. That's where it was shot. They jumped off of that rock, but they had 5 feet down. They had a platform, so they wouldn't die. They figured the actors were not very expendable. So, but you know, and I'm sorry you can't understand all that, but. It really was a beautiful trip, and you can see we're going by that chasm, just a beautiful area. So, okay, so We took the train engine 493 to Silverton. Here's Joan in front of it, and I got you a good picture of it. And up there, we went to a place called The Pits. I think it should have been called the Pig Hut, but you go inside and all the decorations, all the decor are pigs. And of course, their specialty is barbecue pork. So it was a nice place. And you can see on the left-hand picture, you can see the mantle is full of little pig characters. As we were leaving Silverton, the attendant pointed out this house and several others, and it's probably clearer if you look on the far right-hand side, and you can see that there's a balcony, and it's up one level. Well, and on the house direct in front of us, you can see there's no balcony, but the windows are at that same level. What they say is that during the winter, the snow gets so deep that they have to go up the second floor. And that's why the windows are easy to get in and out of, and many homes have balconies. Yeah, not my kind of winter. And then from there, we went to Williams, Arizona, and the Grand Canyon Railroad Hotel. And I had put in Grand Canyon Hotel in my navigator. And so we came upon this building, which says no vacancy. Or the front door says no vacancy. This says a vacancy 350 and up. And we paid quite a bit more than that. So I thought, we've been cheated. Well, then we went up there, and it's been turned into an artist co-op. So artists can go in there and browse and buy stuff and all. And what we found out was that the Grand Canyon Railroad Hotel is separate, and it has been renovated, and it's very, very beautiful, but it's a few blocks away. So this is the lobby of the Grand Canyon Railroad Hotel. And again, somebody you might recognize. And from the balcony, it's a beautiful older building, but it's again been renovated, and it's very, very pretty. And just outside those doors you're looking at is the train depot. That's where the Grand Canyon Railroad goes into the Grand Canyon. And this is all, again, it's Williams, Arizona. And the next morning, we stayed there the night. Our package included basically 2 nights at that hotel at the beginning and end of the trip. And the next morning, they had this Wild West show. And so my wife starred in it, and with a cowboy dude. I thought she was going to leave with him, but she came back. So, and then the railroad itself takes you into the Grand Canyon. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think it is far less picturesque than the Durango-Silverton or many of the other railways we've been on. But we like railroads, and we like trains. And so we wanted to take this. And they also had free snacks and soft drinks. Of course, it's free after you buy the package, which includes 2 nights in the hotel, 1 night in the Grand Canyon, and we expanded that to 2. And when you go to the basic packages to go to the Maswick Lodge, and we wanted to go to El Tovar instead, which is the kind of an upscale, the oldest hotel. And so it was very enjoyable. But we had nice snacks and free soft drinks, free after you buy the package. But if you even buy the package, you still have to pay for the cash bar. And the train goes into the Grand Canyon Village. And here's a map. And so I want to show you where the train depot, that blue arrow is the train depot. And where we stayed was El Tovar Hotel. And you have to walk up at least 30 plus steps to get to it. It's not the most handicapped accessible place, although you can go around the long way and get in. And the place that the basic package was the Maswick Lodge, which is the Green Arrow. And so we actually walked over there to eat in their quote cafeteria a number of times. It's all very nice. Also part of the package was a Arizona sunset tour, and it was on a big bus, a coach bus. So here we're finally at the Grand Canyon. And one of the things that is amazing to me is that on first glance, it looks like a big hole in the ground. But the more you look at it different times a day, you see how beautiful it is and how the stone actually seems to change colors and all. And let's see what else I wanted. Oh, the sunset tour, I think, is the next video I'm going to show you. Just some shots from that, some video from that tour. And you can see how even the colors of the rock change literally as the sun sets. It's really quite beautiful. When we first got there, the attendant who ended up being basically a tour guide for us took us up by the El Tovar and took us to this heart-shaped rock, and it's called Matrimony Rock, and it's embedded in the stone wall that was built around 1934 by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And the story is that one of the workers in the CCC fell in love with a girl who lived in Coulter Hall. And so he worked this into the stone wall across from where she could see it. So she could see it out the window. So we had to have a little romance here and there, Well, the other thing, to me, the most exciting thing, first of all, I see what's straight in front of me. My wife sees everything. So we were walking up by El Tovar, and I'm following the tour guide, and she says, "There's something over there in the bushes." Well, I never would have seen it, but I'm going to show you what it was in a second here. So here we go.
Want to see a newly born baby elk?
So she did create everything.
Yeah, FaceTime me, I'll show you a video of a baby elk. I'll show you it live. Yeah, it's the baby elk.
Yeah. The second part of this video is when we went back a few hours later, and you can see that the baby is up on his or her legs.
Yeah, it's right outside this real old hotel.
Wow, what an experience for you.
That real old hotel the guy's talking about is the El Tovar.
There she is.
I'm at the El Tovar Hotel.
So this is from a couple of hours later or so. And as Joan mentioned, the ranger there said that they often come into the shaded area around the hotel, have their babies, and then they're gone. They're gone by the end of the day. And by that evening, they were gone. Yeah, they just walk off. And I never knew that elk babies had spots like deer babies, like fawns.
I don't have any food.
We've ran across some other animals, wild animals.
Sorry.
Nothing in my pocket, sorry.
They'll take, yeah.
And on our last morning when we were there, we saw all these people on the rim trail looking over the stone wall. And so we followed the crowd, and there's this longhorn sheep. And I think I zoomed back, and so you can see how far down he really is. And he likes the flowers.
Where's the sheep? I heard there was a sheep. You got him?
Oh, that's good. Hi, Teddy.
Really cool. I'm getting a video of him right now.
You see a little bit of the stone brickwork around the rim. Yeah. So, well, and then we stayed in El Tovar, but we also try to hit pretty much all the other buildings. So there are a number of buildings I'm not showing you because we just don't have time. But their Bright Angel trailhead is interesting. Or the Bright Angel Lodge and History Room are interesting. They're at just a little ways from the trailhead. And Mary Coulter, I think she went by M.J. Coulter to get the job as a chief architect for most of the Grand Canyon. At that point in time, they didn't realize she was a woman until she showed up, and that's the way she got the job. She built this stone fireplace, and what's interesting, and I want to be sure I give it to you straight here, says, well, that doesn't say it. It's got to be on this page. Okay. But it's called the Geological Fireplace, and it's designed by Mary Coulter. It reflects the natural strata of the Grand Canyon, including the flat river bottom rocks for the hearth, and to the distinctive layer of flat-lying sedimentary rocks just above the fireplace opening that give the canyon the stair-step look. So you can see the difference from the bottom to just above the hearth, or just above the opening, to the youngest rocks, which are up top, which basically are Kaibab Formation. Don't take my pronunciations as accurate, but it's basically limestone. So, but it's quite a beautiful fireplace to see. And then in that same history room, they have areas dedicated to the Harvey girls, because there are two Harvey girl restaurants, or Fred Harvey restaurants, one in Grand Canyon Village, the other one in Williams. And so two of the remaining ones are right there within train distance. So, and it was fascinating to see all the material, all the artifacts. And they also had this set of binoculars in the right-hand picture that was, so you could see a great distance into the canyon. It was part of an attraction for the tourist. And I'm going to close this up here so I don't see a little bit better. See if I can drag this. I don't really want to cover her up, but there are just all sorts of interesting exhibits in there. And of course, the most important thing is there's a fudge shop with all sorts of fudge. So it made the whole trip worthwhile. Okay, let's see here. And this is the Bright Angel Trail. It's a video from it. Here's my favorite model. And that rectangular hole up there is where everybody comes through to go further on down on the Bright Angel Trail. Longer than what we did. It goes all the way to the bottom of the canyon. We came down about to this turning point, and you can see there are people going even further. They warned us to be cautious, to take sufficient water, etc. And so we went down as far as we felt comfortable. And I think after the fact, we figured we could have gone further. But yeah. And when we got up to the top again, there was a young lady, probably in her 20s, who was on a stretcher, who obviously had problems navigating all the way down and back up. This mule. I don't know if you can come in from the other end. I mean, we're all South Rim, Grand Canyon, and there are other access points. And it is. And I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, if you take some water with you, you can go down as far as you feel comfortable. Then just realize it's more difficult to go back than it is to go down. Okay, from there, I could show you tons of more information on Grand Canyon, but we really had a good time exploring it. The next place we headed to is Moab, Utah, because we almost passed up Arches. We had this feeling we'd seen so much rock and that maybe we didn't need to see any more. But we were really, really glad we did, because I think it's got some of the most beautiful rock formations in Arches. And as a kid, I used to collect rocks, and I haven't quite got it out of my system. So when I saw this rock shop, I stopped there. And let's see if I can find my list, because I can't remember everything I bought there. And maybe I didn't bring it. That's probably good, because my wife doesn't know everything I bought. But I did get a slice of dinosaur bone. I got a crinoid fossil, which is it's a sea lily. People think it's excuse me, while I turn this off. I thought I had it silenced, but that obviously was not the case. Anyhow, the crinoid it's actually an animal. It looks like a lily, a sea lily, but it's actually an animal. Long stem and sprays out at the top. And I got some other things on there that I can't remember at the moment, but more than she wants to know. Yeah. Okay, so wait, did I cover that? Oh, I want to mention outside the rock shop are all these big chunks of petrified wood, which are for sale if you want to take one home. But that would be bigger than what I could lift. I mean, it really is a big piece of rock. When we went into Arches, we spent part of 2 days there. And by the way, you have to make reservations just like you would like most national parks. And it costs you all of $2 a day to go in if you've got a pass. And as a senior years ago, I bought a $85 lifetime, so it cost us $2 for the first day and $2 for the second day. So that wasn't so bad. The first trail we went on was the Park Avenue Trail. And I love it because, in fact, let me see if I can hide this so you can see a little bit more to the top. But lots of spires, lots of balancing rocks, sheer cliffs. It's just absolutely beautiful. And here's part of the trail down into the canyon. And it's just I never found it really, I mean, it got warm. I don't think we found it terribly uncomfortable. It was just very, very comfortable. But of course, we were there. We kind of missed, we were there just before the real heavy summer season begins. So, this is one of my favorites. It's called Three Gossips. When I was there, I thought it should be the Three Kings, but it is called the Three Gossips officially. And this is a balanced rock, but there are balanced rocks everywhere. So, but this particular one was called the balanced rock. And then turret rock, and if you look in the little gap up there, you see three people. So it gives you a sense of the size. There are many, many, many others, but my favorite is the Sand Dune Arch. And the left-hand side is what it looks like as you approach it from the parking area. And then you get in and you have to pass through that. And if you look in there real carefully, you'll see my wife is in there. I don't want to discriminate, but if you're very heavy, you're probably not going to get in there. It's a little tight. And it's also the coolest place late in the day on a hot day. And a lot of people go in there because it's all shadow. I mean, it's got a lot of shade to it. And so this is actually what the Sand Dune Arch looks like, which is fairly small compared to the whole area. But it's very beautiful. And here's...
And he's in it.
I want to know if he's a good omen or a bad omen. Or if that's just his home.
I don't know who that guy is. He just walked in. I'm not real sure how legal it is for people to be climbing on the rocks, but they were. And off to the left is where that actual Sand Dune Arch is. It's built into that wall.
And I wouldn't have noticed that. And then I looked at the smaller bottles and we spent way more than you. I mean, you just have to be careful.
So it's a very cool area, cool in many ways, but cool in the afternoon, a hot afternoon. It's a good place to end your trip. Well, then from there we went to the Royal Gorge Route Railroad in Canyon City, and Colorado, and this is the train depot. And in the distance, you can see the bridge that goes over the Royal Gorge. If you can see the pipeline that goes along the opposite shore, that's used to get water to the mining camp.
Yeah. Now you can see the pavement.
the gondola that you can take. We'll take you on it in a minute here.
Big group.
We didn't do the raft or the kayaking, but it's available. It's really gorgeous in there, as you can tell. And what I probably should have forewarned you is I'm going to give you this video to hopefully get a sense of what the outdoors, what the natural state was. I just find it very relaxing to watch it again and again. But I won't make you watch that one again. So, but it just was a very peaceful time on the river and the train, and everything we did was very restful. So that was the Royal Gorge Railroad. And what I also didn't tell you is that it goes out, and then we're looking for a place for it to turn around, and I don't see anything. And so it goes backwards the whole way down. And we got a parlor car because we like to have the ability to sit down and do that. That was an open car that you can walk into. And of course, much of it is what they call a coach, where you're just simply sitting and looking forward. But so there are different levels of admission prices for the train. And if you're really interested, there's also a prison in the town. You can drive by the prison. So it's an old one. So after doing the Royal Gorge Railroad, then we went to the Royal Gorge Bridge and Park. And this is the suspension bridge that you saw from down below. And here we are taking the gondola ride. So I hope you enjoy gondola rides.
I can place a long time ago, like 15 years ago.
And that, of course, is the railroad track down below that we were on before.
Yeah, we're right now. That's nice.
Kayaker.
Oh yeah.
Esto horriblemente. Look at it.
Look at that. I was done. No, ahora se llama feo otra vez.
And opposite, on the left-hand side of the river, you can see the water pipe that used to supply the miners. And here comes a raft.
Oh, look at this guy. Oh.
También hay lanchas.
Yeah.
Well, they're letting the kayakers go, and then the rafters will come.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't expect 4 guys to be kayaking. Allá va el tren.
See? Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's big. Oh, what's that? Oh, wow.
Yeah, that rock is gorgeous.
Then we'll get to come back again.
Y también se puede caminar abajo. No, no, ahí está un puente.
Pero no es el...
¿Te gustó? Hasta regreso.
Pero sí hay para caminar y ahí van.
Por el puente, pero sí, pero son los que,
ahí
son
van
los que
caminos.
sí,
Oh.
son los que van como...
Nosotros no.
There's a rail for comparison, so you can see how much of a drop it really is. And it was very windy on the suspension bridge. I don't know. I really don't know. It's walking distance. I mean, yeah, we walked over and back, so I'm not sure. And on the other side, they have a little village area where they've got snacks, and they've also got like a show. Yeah, and they've got a hall for shows. Basically, what we saw there was they had a bird animal show, with live animals that the trainers would have fly over the. Yeah. So then we went to Manitou Springs, to the cliff dwellings, and I'm almost done. We got 9 minutes. I think I'll make it. So I've always been fascinated with cliff dwellings. We went to Mesa Verde one time, and this one was very interesting. You can climb up, and I did, and you go in there and you realize that they're 2 stories might give you enough room for a good sized living room. I mean, it's really very, very small. And then from there, we went to Seven Falls. We'd been there several years ago. And the main difference is since then, there actually was a flood through the area. They've had a fire in there. They had COVID. And so all the chipmunks we were looking forward to seeing are gone. So, but it's still a beautiful, it's a long walk. Broadmoor has bought it recently. And so they do a shuttle from a parking lot to the base. And there's probably maybe a mile walk up to the falls themselves. And when you get there, there are 224 steps you can take to the very top. And we did that when well, I did it when we were younger. She didn't want to do it last time. This time she did it. So with age comes wisdom. So she was able to go out on the top. We got to the very top and we started looking around for the elevator down. And and there was none. So, but there are two trails at the very top that wind around, and we took one of them for a ways, and it's very, very pretty. It is a little scary. It's you've got to have good balance because it's as steep as it looks. So the staircase, yeah. Once you get to the top, the paths are fairly even. Yes, yeah. Well, and it's not very wide, so you can't really pass anybody very, very easily. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. So here's what it actually looks like alive. And there is an elevator, not to that location, but to another location where they have a gift shop, a gallery, that sort of thing. And so we took that up, and that's where I took this picture from, is from opposite side. And they also have a restaurant there, and they have what they call flapping Sorry, falling waffles food truck. And it was closed when we were there, but it normally is open. And they also have what they call Restaurant 1858, which is the year that it was established as a park. So, then from there we went on to Garden of the Gods, and this is kind of interesting. So I'll be sure I get this right and read it to you. Charles Elliott Perkins was the head of the Q Railroad, which back in the 1800s, basically when there were multiple railroads owned by different individuals and wasn't as unified as it is today. He was encouraged by a friend to establish a home in what now is Garden of the Gods. And he built, but he didn't ever build his railroad out to Colorado Springs, which is what the whole intent was. This guy in Colorado Springs wanted him to build his house there, so he'd make the railroad come to that point, and he never did. But he bought the land. He purchased 240 acres, and it became his summer home. He later added property to it, but he never built on most of it, preferring to leave his wonderland in his natural state for the enjoyment of the public. He died in 1907 before he could make arrangements for the land to become a public park. But his children followed through and donated it to the city of Colorado Springs. And so it is in fact a public park. They don't charge admission to the park. And the stipulation was it would be known forever as the Garden of the Gods, where it shall remain free to the public, where no intoxicating liquors shall be manufactured, sold, or dispensed, where no building or structure shall be erected except those necessary to properly care for, protect, and maintain the area as a public park. So you think everything would be free there, but it's not. There's a visitor center, which is outside that designated area. It's across the street. And you can get this, it's a 1907 trolley tour. And it's about a 45 minute tour. And it's really very nice. They'll drive you through Garden of the Gods, and the driver narrates all the way along. And in the front of this, you can't see it here, but in the very front as a passenger, if you're looking up at the front of it on the inside, there's a plaque, and this is what it says. It says, gentlemen must refrain from the use of rough language in the presence of ladies and children. Woolen blankets are provided for your comfort during cold weather. Hogging the blankets will not be tolerated, and the offender will be made to ride with the driver. So up front. Firearms must be kept on your person for use in case of emergency. Do not use them for pleasure or shoot at wild animals, as the sound riles the driver. In the event of a runaway trolley, leaping from the coach in a panic will leave you injured, at the mercy of the elements, hostile Indians, and hungry coyotes. And it continued to say, forbidden topics of discussion are stagecoach robberies and Indian uprisings. To ensure proper service, if you like your ride, be sure to tip your guide. You knew that lap dance would be on there. So here's a little what the here's the sign, but then here's a little bit of the tour.
8 million people through here every year. I'm sorry, 5 million. I don't know where I got 8 million. So we have lots of different wildlife in the area. We've got mule deer. They're called mule deer because they have long ears like mules. We have bobcat, fox, coyote, occasional black bear, rattlesnakes, and the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, which is our state mammal.
I love that tall, thin sliver piece. I want that in my backyard.
Birds make their nests in those holes. The most common is a white-throated swift. It spends 80% of its time in the air. It feeds in the air and it mates in the air. Up ahead, there's a formation called the Leaning Buddha. There's a bunch of people on the stomach. That's okay to climb that. These larger rocks, you need ropes, harnesses, and a permit. Over here on the left is a screeching witch looking up at the sky.
The very top of that looks like a witch looking upward, supposedly.
Top on the left, it looks like a fish. Anybody guess what kind of fish that is? The what? A redfish? It's a rockfish.
See the fish there? Did you see the fish in that last? So she called it rockfish. So, and then we headed home, and went past Goodland and Colby, and so I had to throw in a couple pictures of those two. The supposedly the largest easel in the world, and that's the Colby. I don't know what it is, library or what. I never did find out. We didn't stop long enough to find out. Okay, I kept you exactly an hour, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was relaxing. So, but thank you for coming.
Was that one planned trip, or did you put pieces together?
That was one trip.
No, I meant if you didn't hire somebody.
Oh no,
no. You put the pieces.
Oh, I was going to mention that. I used an app called Road Trippers.
Okay.
And so I was able to figure out stops we wanted to make. I mean, we knew some places we wanted to go, and then we filled in some other ones because I didn't want to drive more than 4 to 6 hours a day.
That's
and at the same time, I wanted a break every once in a while. So we spent 2-3 days in the Grand Canyon area, and other areas. Durango, we spent a couple of nights there.
So you could add on it.
Yes, right.
Okay.
So
yeah, I didn't know your love of rocks, your love of dwelling, just wonderful. Yeah. And I'm sure you have the same love. Trees, love water.
Yeah. Garden of the Gods has some great hiking trails there. Of course, Seven Falls has hiking trails up at the very top. Yeah, Grand Canyon, the Bright Angel Trail. So a lot of good hiking.
Anybody have any questions they wanted to ask? John?
We were there, when was it? Was it the end of, I think it was the end of May and early June. End of May and early June.
You said it's probably.
Yeah.
Right, I know.
Yeah. It was this year. It was 2024. Right. We purposely tried to get good temperatures and not very many tourists. And it kind of worked. So.
Well, I think your presentations are always way up here, our expectations.
Well, thank you.
And you always exceed them. And thank you so much, Jonathan and Joan, for sharing this wonderful adventure with us. So let's give them another hand.
Thank you. Thank you.